I'm Hank Philippi Ryan, USA Today bestselling author of 13 novels, almost 14. I sent in my manuscript a week ago, so I am waiting now for the edit. So I will let you know whether my book is good or not, depending on what my editor says tomorrow. It could go either way. So I should introduce them to you now. First is Brian Andrews. I'll do this alphabetically. Brian Andrews is a U.S. Navy veteran, a Park Leadership Fellow, and a former submarine officer with degrees from Vanderbilt and Cornell universities. He is half of Andrews and Wilson, the best-selling co-authored team of action-adventure thriller series, such as Tier 1, Sons of Valor, and the W.E.B. Griffin Presidential Agent. Their brand new book is Rogue Asset, which is out right now. Our next author is Kimberly Belle, the USA Today and internationally best-selling author of the forthcoming My Darling Husband, a story about a mother held captive with her 2 children in their own home while her husband scrambles for the ransom, and the masked invader who's about to turn their family secrets into a public scandal. And Kimberly is incredibly brave tonight. She is in Amsterdam, where it is 1 a.m. So she says she has taken a nap and she is ready to go. So we welcome you here tonight, Kimberly, as well. Vera Kurian is a writer and psychologist living in Washington, D.C. She has a PhD in social psychology, and she studied intergroup relations, ideology, and quantitative methods. Her debut novel, Never Saw Me Coming, is a campus thriller, good one, Vera, hold that up, is a campus thriller about a psychopathic girl attending college as a part of a special program for psychopaths, and it is phenomenal. Also tonight, we have the amazing Scott Shepard, and you will want to ask him a lot of questions. He has a terrific and amazing history. He's a veteran writer, producer, showrunner with years of experience running network television shows, having overseen hundreds of hours of television. The Last Commandment, his first mystery novel, was released in July of this year, and its sequel, Should I Fall, will be published in June 2022. So to give you some ideas of things you might ask them, let me start with our famous The Backroom 20 questions. It's really 12, but 20 seems like too much. And I will ask each author a couple of questions to let you know a little bit more about them. So let's start with Brian Andrews, who is on the screen closest to me. Brian, ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. What is the scariest or most dangerous thing you've ever done?
Oh, well, that's easy. I've driven on a submarine off the coast of Russia with a bunch of other submarines driving around looking for us.
Oh, come on now. Everybody does that. What's something scary? Why? So you were in the Navy and assigned to a submarine. Tell a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I was on what's called a fast attack submarine, 688 class, and I was stationed in the Pacific. So the type of submarine that I was on is the kind that goes out and does the types of things that you would have seen in the Hunt for Red October or Crimson Tide types of movies, where you're sneaking around underwater looking for other submarines and collecting intelligence or escorting the battle group. And nowadays, even submarines can launch missiles to help support operations in like the Middle East when we were in Afghanistan or Iraq.
You see, you all, there are lots of things you can ask Brian. That's pretty great. Thank you. Kimberly Belle, what was your favorite book as a child?
Well, there were many, but I think I'm going to go with Charlotte's Web. That was the book that I remember, the first book that I really remember that I could not stop reading, that I would read it and I would go back to the beginning and read it again. And, it's been many, many years since then, and I can't really tell you all the details of the story, but I can still remember how that book made me feel.
Vera Kurian, what was your first job?
Oh God, I was hired in college to work at the Jewish Student Center on Shabbat because they needed someone to like open the door and turn the lights on and all that other stuff. It was my very first job, and I didn't really understand why I was there, but I'll take a paycheck.
How did you get that job? How did you even hear about
There
it?
was a listing somewhere for it, and then they wrote down my name and then phone number and like goyim or whatever that word is for like non-Jewish person that we can hire to do this.
Boy,
Oh,
Yeah, but it was just sit there and do my homework. It was great.
yeah.
all you have to do is open the door. I like that's a good job. That's a good job. Scott Shepard, who is the most famous person you have ever met?
Oh. I mean, first, well, a couple presidents. I mean, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, but the person I kind of knew, probably Frank Sinatra growing up as a kid.
You knew him growing up as a kid.
Yeah, he was one of my grandfather's best friends. Yeah.
And so tell us one Frank Sinatra thing.
He was a really good friend of my grandfather. He actually gave the eulogy at my grandfather's wedding, and no, I mean, he could use my grandfather's funeral. And
Yeah.
him and Mia Farrow got married at my grandparents' house. And when I was like 8 or 9 years old, I went to the World Series with my grandfather, a guy named Artie Deutsch, who was the heir to the Sears Roebuck Foundation. That was my grandfather's best friends. Interestingly about him, he was the heir to the Sears Roebuck fortune and was sick one day in 1926. So he wasn't kidnapped by Loeb and Leopold like he was supposed to be. They killed Bobby Franks instead. And there was Jack Benny, and who was one of my grandfather's other good friends. I have a lot of stories about him. He's a great, he was a wonderful guy. And then it was Uncle Frank, as we would call him, and Mia, who was 19, and they were engaged. And I get home and my grandmother goes, "So how was the World Series?" And I have no idea who these people really are, being 8 years old. I go, "Oh, it's like fabulous. You're at the World Series," and they come and they take your picture all day long.
Brian, are you a good singer?
Oh, I don't consider myself a good singer. Maybe I have 3 daughters, and so they're always singing in the house. So at the best, I could consider myself a backup singer to my kids.
What are they singing? What kinds of things do they
Oh,
sing?
they sing all the time. They sing everything, and they don't always sing on key, but they don't know that. And yeah, I mean, they're singing whatever. There was a Amazon Prime production called Cinderella. It was like a reboot of Cinderella with Camila Cabello, and they love all those songs. So they're singing all those songs. There's a bunch of covers in it, so they sing those. Or sometimes they'll just put in their AirPods and they'll be singing. So they hear the music, but I'm not hearing. I'm just hearing them. So that's
so cute, though. That's sort of endlessly cute. That's great. Okay, Kimberly, are you still awake? You're still awake?
Yes.
Okay. You're so great. Where did you grow up, and how did that affect your writing, do you think?
So I grew up in a very small town in Tennessee, Kingsport, Tennessee. If anyone knows it, it's in the on the very eastern side of the state, so up against the Appalachian Mountains. I don't know how it affected my writing per se, except that I guess my writing has a very Southern voice, like my voice. I have I guess a twang in my writing. Yeah. It's a lovely place. My parents still live there, so I get to visit, but it's a place I never want to live.
And Sharon Person says she has a friend in Kingsport, Tennessee.
I love it.
And so you live in Atlanta and Amsterdam now, is that right?
Correct. Yes. So we're kind of split. And I have one kid stateside and one kid who lives here. So every excuse that I can get to travel, I'm on.
Great. Vera, you're next. What was the most interesting research you did for your book?
I mean, I'm sure we've all Googled things about various how to murder people, but I think probably just the overall topic of psychopaths. I wanted to have an accurate portrayal of what they're actually like, because a lot of people use the word colloquially to refer to anyone who does something bad, when actually it's like a specific diagnosis with various characteristics, which some of which are maybe not well known in the public. So I did actually delve into the actual psychological research on it, not necessarily just like random things you'd find on the internet, but things that were written by clinicians for other clinicians, to give a more realistic feeling to the book.
And the psychopaths in your book are so chillingly manipulative Is that one of the characteristics?
Yeah, I mean, literally one of the traits is being manipulative or like superficially charming, um, you know, parasitic lifestyle, recklessness, a bunch of other things. But the manipulation is like a big part of it.
I love that book. You know I do. Scott, okay, this is one of our big backroom questions, and it might be difficult. What is the best thing that happened to you today?
Today,
Today.
the best thing I guess that happened to me today is I got a phone call about about a half hour before we came on, where a friend of mine from high school said, "I'm passing your house. Can I like stop in front of the house and can we catch up?" And I hadn't seen him like in a year, and I've been reacquainted with him. And then he proceeded to tell me how his father, who's 90, he was on his way back to the house down the street. He lives down the street, and he was telling me all about that he's going to his 94-year-old father's wedding. Is what he was saying to his longtime 80-year-old girlfriend, but I gather it was only a paper wedding. Like, and I sort of said, does that mean like, 'cause I'm not gonna tell you who he is. I said, does that mean when he passes, she doesn't get any of his money, which he has a lot of? And he said, yeah. So that was like, it was interesting hearing that story. I'm sure I'll put it in a book or something like that.
And we do want to know what you all are reading. And we have asked you, Karen and I asked you before the event, to bring a book that you can show and briefly tell that you are recommending for our readers here tonight. So Brian, we'll start with you.
Sure.
What book are you recommending?
I recommend We March at Midnight by Ray McPadden. Now, this is a nonfiction, so, for all of you who joined us tonight that love fiction, maybe consider taking, just a step out of your comfort zone to pick up Ray's book.
Terrific. Thank you. Sounds like an important book. Thank you for that. Kimberly, what about you?
So I am reading Woman on Fire by Lisa Barr. This one is the ARC, the advanced copy. I don't think it's out until March, but she had me at Amsterdam. It's set partially in Amsterdam, and she actually emailed me when she first started writing this book with a bunch of questions about the city. So as soon as she sent me a copy, I knew I had to dive in. It's about a journalist who chases like this Nazi-looted masterpiece, this work of art, down for one of her clients or customers, someone who hires her.
Great. And we will, and for all of you in the audience, we will put the names and authors of these books in the chat so you can find them without having to write them all down. Vera, what are you reading? What would you like us to know about?
I just finished this, which you're probably seeing everywhere, but just wanted to reiterate how fantastic it is. If you loved David Mitchell's Cloud Atlas, this is the only other book I would comp to that one, where it has multiple timelines stretching over thousands of years, all surrounded around this kind of mysterious manuscript where you have a couple timelines in like ancient Istanbul, one modern terrorist attack, and then one way in the future we're on a spaceship, where it's got his short chapters. So despite the fact that it's like really thick, like you can get through half of it in a day. It's really a fantastic read. I highly recommend it.
What a brain he must have. What
I
a
know.
mind he must have to come up with something that elaborate. Scott, what about you?
Well, actually, what I've been reading a lot of Nordic noir, because we're about to adapt a Norwegian trilogy into a TV series. But in terms of the book that I read this summer, is The Plot by, and I never know how to say her name. Is it Jean or Jean?
I think
Corlitz.
it's Jean.
But this book is really well written, and as a writer, it's literally about a writer who's like failed teaching in a college, and he's out of ideas, and he can't write his other great literary book, and it starts with a student telling him an idea he can't get out of his head, and very early on in the first few pages, when the student disappears, and then he hears that the student is dead, he decides like, well, I never saw that book, so maybe I should use that plot. And where it goes from there is really entertaining. It's really well written. And it's just a page turner. And it's also just an interesting insight. And another great book about writer's block, like The Shining is a great book about writer's block, right?
Wasn't that fun? We hope you enjoyed that taste of what a backroom session is like. But more fun comes immediately afterward. That's when the audience is broken up into 4 breakout rooms, and each author in turn visits each room. We'd love to show you what a breakout session is like, because those relaxed face-to-face conversations between best-selling authors and readers are the hallmark of backroom events. But breakout sessions are never recorded, because what's said in the back room stays in the back room.